This tournament has a habit of breaking things. A few days ago, it claimed its first victim before a knockout game had even been played. Tunisia sacked their head coach in the middle of the World Cup, a casualty of chaos and panic. We covered that one. We thought it was strange. We thought it was cruel. And then, on June 18th in Vancouver, the World Cup took a victim of a completely different kind. And this one did not involve a boardroom or a press release. This one happened on the grass, in front of a packed stadium, on what was supposed to be the greatest night in the history of Canadian soccer. His name is Ismaël Koné. And to understand why an entire country went silent in the middle of a 6-0 win, you have to understand exactly what happened to him. So let's set the scene, because the context makes it so much worse. This was Canada's night. 40 years after they first appeared at a World Cup, they were thrashing Qatar in Vancouver, on home soil, in front of an absolutely deafening crowd, on their way to their first ever World Cup victory. They were 3-0 up. Jonathan David was on his way to a hat trick, the first hat trick by a host nation player at a World Cup since Jeff Hurst in 1966. Qatar had already had a man sent off. Everything was perfect. And then, 8 minutes into the second half, in the 51st minute, it all stopped. Canada were charging forward. Koné got the ball, and as he tried to play, Qatar's Asim Madibo came in late and hard from behind. What followed was the sound nobody in a stadium ever wants to hear. Players nearby said you could hear the bones snap. Canada's manager, Jesse Marsh, was only a few feet away, and he said it plainly afterward. It was right in front of us, and everyone could hear it. Koné looked down at his own leg, and the camera caught a young man in pure shock, holding a leg that was visibly badly broken. An assistant coach was screaming at the referee, and in an instant, the loudest stadium in the world fell completely silent. What happened next is the part that tells you who these people are. Koné's teammates rushed to him, not just to help, but in anger, furious at the nature of the challenge. A scuffle broke out between the two benches. Madibo stood with his hands on his head. And in the middle of all of it, lying on a stretcher, breathing from an oxygen tank, Ismaël Koné did something remarkable. He gave a thumbs up to the crowd. He waved. As Marsh put it, he was making everybody else feel at ease with the fact that he was the one who was injured. It was, the manager said, an incredible statement about Koné as a person. He hugged his coach, he waved to his country, and he let them know it was okay to keep going. And they did keep going, because they had to. 10 minutes after play resumed, Nathan Saliba, the substitute who had replaced Koné, scored a free kick, and instead of celebrating, a staffer handed him something. It was a number 8 jersey, Koné's jersey. Saliba held it up to the crowd, and that image became one of the defining pictures of this entire World Cup. During the hydration break, cameras caught Marsh in tears. The goalkeeper, Maxime Crépeau, a man who broke his own leg in horrific fashion and missed the 2022 World Cup because of it, was on the pitch consoling a teammate, telling him, "You're not alone, but we have a job to finish for him." Canada went on to win 6-0, but nobody was really celebrating a scoreline anymore. So who is Ismaël Koné? If you are outside of Canada, you might not know the name, and you should. He is 24 years old, born in Abidjan in the Ivory Coast, and he moved to Montreal at the age of 7 to join his mother. He grew up in the local Quebec soccer scene, came through the CF Montreal Academy, and signed his first professional contract in 2021. From there, the rise was rapid. A club record move to Watford in England, then on to Marseille in France, a loan at Rennes, and finally a permanent transfer to Sassuolo in Italy's Serie A. 4 European leagues before his mid-20s. He has earned more than 40 caps for Canada, and he represented them at both the 2022 and the 2026 World Cups. On the pitch, he's their engine, a box-to-box midfielder, a ball carrier, the guy who drives Canada through the middle of the field and turns defense into attack in a single movement. Marsh said it himself. There is no like-for-like replacement. He is, in the manager's words, a big part of the heart of this team. And his teammates didn't talk about his passing range or his stats afterward. They talked about him. Alistair Johnston described a kid who is so easygoing, who loves the sport so much he'd stay up all night just playing two-touch with the guys, and said that's exactly why it hurts so much to watch him go down on such a needless challenge. Jonathan David, the man who scored the historic hat trick, couldn't even enjoy it. He means everything to this team, David said. Someone we love a lot. Moise Bombito, who himself only just returned from a broken leg, said simply, "We just have to make him proud." There was at least a small grace in the aftermath. Modibo walked into the Canadian dressing room before they left for the hospital to apologize. And both managers agreed it was an accident, that nobody meant for it to happen. Marsh said he did not fault Modibo for the injury itself. What he could not understand was the protest from the Qatar bench, arguing it should not even have been a red card for a foul that broke a man's leg. Tension stayed high right through the final whistle, with an icy exchange between the two coaches. But Marsh was not interested in dwelling on it. He left his own press conference early to go be with Cohn and his family at the hospital, where Cohn was preparing for surgery. And that's the cruelty of this sport and of this tournament. Cohn's World Cup is over. After all those years, all those leagues, the journey from Abidjan to Montreal to the biggest stage in the game, on the single greatest night his national team has ever had, it ended on a stretcher. Canada are now almost certain to reach the knockout rounds, and they'll do it carrying him with them. Johnston said it best. It's given us another reason to play for him. The World Cup took another victim this week. Not a coach this time, a 24-year-old kid who just wanted to play, who waved to a country in pain even while he was the one breaking. Get well soon, Ismail. All of Canada is behind you, and honestly, so are the rest of us. If you want to send him strength, drop a message in the comments. I read every one. A like helps the video reach more people. Subscribe if you want World Cup coverage that remembers the human beings behind the badges. Football at this scale is never just a tournament. This was a moment that reminded everyone what really matters.